The M1911 is undoubtedly the best gun in multiplayer in terms of a secondary. However, what about Warzone? It's much better than the Ratt that we discovered last week, but is it any better than the Klauser, which has got a ridiculous damage profile? Well, in this video, we're going to find out. So before we get into the stats, here's what the gun builds are. So we'll start off with the M1911. So it's the same builds that we were using in the last video. We're using the Gracie Short number 2, 8-round short Russian mags with suppressor, rapid action, hollow point, vital. You know, the usual stuff, which makes this gun really good. Only thing with this particular weapon is that you do need a lot of attachments to get to its core. Whereas on the Klauser, you only need a few attachments to get to its core. But let's look at the Klauser build. So for the Warzone Klauser build, we're going to be using the Wyvern 170mm barrel. That's going to give us a lot of range, so much range compared to the other barrel. And of course, faster bullets as well, which is always nice. And then we're also going to be using the rapid action trigger, although I would recommend possibly using a different trigger which gives you recoil control, but that is going to be at the expense of fire rate. And then of course you've got the 12-round mags, 0.45 ACP. Everything else is pretty much your choice, but I would recommend curbing that recoil as much as you possibly can. So yeah, let's get into the stats. The damage on the M1911 short Russian build comes in at 68. Now this is really, really strong for any weapon in the game, let alone a pistol. And then that's going to be matched by the Klauser, and that's going to come in at 87. Now these are really high numbers, like these are 2-tapping in Warzone easily. So yeah guys, really high damage on these pistols. The next we're going to talk about is the rate of fire. Rate of fire on short Russian is 382 rounds per minute, and that's going to be followed by 293 on the Klauser, which is noticeably slower. Now, I do want to point out as well with this rate of fire that you're not actually realistically going to be getting this rate of fire because, one, you'll need to wait for the recoil to steady, and two, you're probably going to be better off using a trigger that gives you a bit recoil control at the price of a little bit of rate of fire, because otherwise the recoil is just unusable. So yeah, just bear that in mind. Range on the M19 is going to be 19 meters, and then on the Santa Klauser, it's going to be coming in at a whopping 26 meters, which is really, really good for a pistol. Then that's followed by the hipfire spreads. Hipfire on the short Russian is 5.5 digs, and on the Klauser, it's going to be 5.8. So very slightly better hipfire on the M1911, but not really that noticeable. Now here's where there is a big difference, the magazine capacity. So the short Russian mags on this is going to give you 8 mags on the M1911, whereas the high damage rounds on the Santa Klauser is going to be 12. That is a significant advantage, especially in Warzone, so that's just something for you to bear in mind there. And then the reload speeds are both at 2.1. which is, you know, it's good numbers. Now, we're going to talk about the time to kills. So, the time to kill, bear in mind both are using the rapid action just to be as close as possible. 157 milliseconds on the M1911, which we talked about last week. And then for the Klauser, it's going to be 225. Now, do bear in mind that will most likely be a bit slower than that, just because you're probably going to want to run a different trigger on there. But the fastest rate of fire, highest damage builds, this is what we're dealing with today. But the next special bit is going to be Warzone. So for Warzone, the M1911 will come in at 471 milliseconds, which, as highlighted last week, is an absolutely ridiculous number. That's like semi-automatic weapons in your pocket levels of power. And that's obviously, you know, really high, 4 shots to kill. Whereas on the Klauser, it's going to be coming in at 451 milliseconds, which is 3 shots to kill. Now, granted, you have to hit them 3 shots, and hitting them 3 shots is not as easy as you would think, and you've got to be hitting the chest. If you're not hitting the chest, then it can easily be a 4-shot kill, which is the same as the Klauser, and that will obviously significantly increase your time to kill. Now, you would usually just go straight with the faster time to kill weapon, but there's a couple of things that we need to bear in mind with the Klauser here. One is that it is that chest only damage. 2, the recoil is borderline unusable at that fire rate of 293 rounds per minute, which basically means you're going to have to take the trigger off and put a recoil trigger on there, and you're going to have to slow down your shots, just to make sure that that follow-up shot definitely hits, because it is an awful weapon to deal with in Warzone when you're trying to fire it up close at somebody, or even at range, which is what it's technically designed to be doing. So we labelled the M1911 the king of the sidearms for multiplayer, and I said I was going to hold off before I called it that in Warzone. I'm not going to call either of them the king here. However, I do favour the M1911. So though you do sacrifice 4 bullets, which is absolute mental, you're going to be hitting them 4-shot kills a lot more consistently than what you'll be hitting the 3-shot kills with on the Klauser. And the Klauser is just a bit less forgiving as well. If you miss 1 shot with a Klauser, your time to kill is significantly increased. Whereas on the M1911, you can easily just follow it up with another shot. So that's just something for us to bear in mind. But guys, that's going to wrap up this episode of the Versus series. We are going to be talking about the top break pistol next on this channel. And then we're going to have some videos following the Caldera Warzone map, which is interesting to say the least. But guys, till then, I'm ShadowsReign. You guys are awesome, and I'll see you in the next video. Peace.
Bombers ready for orders.
Oh, I got hit markers.
Not calling bombers this time. I can see other people's suppressions.
The enemy has taken the hard point. Confirmed.
This is good.
Hard point activated. We control the hard point.
Are them our bombs or theirs? Asking for a friend.
Don't know.
Edward, have you called in any bombs?
Contact at the hard point. Enemy care package inbound. Attack dogs ready for action.
I wonder if Merciless counts.
Friendly attack dogs on the way for backup. Friendly bombing run on the way.
I've only got 20 bullets left.
Fury kill. Keep the
behind me.
momentum.
Oh,
Hard
that's
point
nice.
confirmed. Enemy has the hard point. Hard point activated.
About time I died. I wonder if Merciless counts.
Just got a death machine from an enemy care package that someone on our team was shooting instead of getting.
I've just stacked my kill streak. Oi oi! That's it. Just keep off the point. We don't need it.
Oh.
You managed to impress me. Good job, all.